Hello, this is Christine from the Center of Sacred Window Studies. It is a great pleasure today to welcome Sue Bowerman. Sue is someone I've known for a few years now who is working together with Ann Revington, and they have the Ayurveda Mother and Infant program, AMI. Sue brings such a beautiful background to her practice and her history. I'm so excited to talk with her about it today. But she has a background in biology, degrees in biology and neuroscience, Indian philosophy, and music. Sue, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Christine. I've been very excited since you asked me to come here because I feel a very deep connection with your work, and I'm so impressed with what you've done with the Sacred Windows School and taking it over after Isha left us, and really making good out of it. And I think she's up there smiling and very proud of you.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. Yisha was so transformative for so many of us in discovering this work, and truly is what brought me to you after Yisha's passing as the founder of the original Sacred Windows School. We were invited to visit with Ann Revington at the ashram up there, the Art of Living, and that's where I met you.
Mm-hmm.
So Sue, you are from the United States, but you've been living in Europe for some years. Tell me a little bit about the origin of what brought you to Ayurveda and postpartum care.
Well, as every young wannabe mother, I wanted the best for my child. And having already had a background in Ayurveda, I was already doing my dinacharya. I was already vegetarian. I had been already meditating for, since I was a teenager. I really wanted, okay, what's the best way to prepare for having a child? And once the child is there, what's the best way to keep them healthy and happy and have a good family life? So I had started transcendental meditation as a teenager, and I was living in the community of transcendental meditation people at Maharishi International University in Iowa at that time. And they announced, Maharishi Ayurveda announced a program called Maharishi Ayurveda Mother and Baby. And I thought, wow, that's for me. And it was there that I met Isha. I think I had known her in the community. So together we took the training. And so we learned all about the mother massage, the baby massage, about the oleation and the diet, about rest and recuperation and the whole paradigm shift. And I thought, this is fantastic. And I started, giving this for my friends and being part of teaching them the baby massage and massaging the mums and being part of delivering the food, the meals to their homes after they'd given birth. And I thought, this is fantastic. This is, I saw how it affected them. These mums were smiling, they weren't stressed out, and they were restful, and they really bonded with the babies. And I thought, I've got to be a part of this. This is a paradigm shift that is so needed, and I want to be a part of this. And then, so Isha and I had our children at about the same time. So Corey and my son Neil were born at about the same time. So we went through that experience together. And from that, it's one thing to learn it and to watch how it is for others. It's completely another thing to experience it yourself. And that's when the message really sunk in. I thought, this is amazing. Because actually, my husband is was very, very much into Ayurveda, and he's also scientist brain type. And the Charaka Samhita being the foundation of Ayurveda, one of the two foundations of Ayurveda, we were studying it, and we decided to really, well, we went to India and we saw Trigunaji there, and we went on the preconception cleansing program for about 6 weeks, so that we could really be clean and pure and have the best possible egg and sperm for conception. So we actually went through the whole program ourselves, and there are some very magical things about in Charaka Samhita for sort of, I mean, it might sound a little bit really outlandish, but for choosing the qualities of your baby in advance, and even there are some hints about the gender as well. So we thought, well, let's give it a try. So we did, and with both of our children, we got exactly what we wanted.
Oh, amazing.
It's mind-boggling. I don't know. I mean, having the scientist's brain, you know, doubting Thomas, and let's have proof. And is there a double-blind, peer-reviewed, control study, blah 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 blah, that proves that it works? Well, but yeah, we have. My son is now, how old is he? He's 33, and my daughter is 30. And so thus, I'm still in the sacred window of 45 days for the first 45 years of the baby and the mother. And a lot of women, they say, as you know, well, after I had my first baby, I just aged rapidly. I went downhill. And that's when I can pinpoint the disintegration of the marriage started then. And because there's such an upheaval then, but that's why this program is so beautiful, because it actually gives the nourishment on every single level that's needed to not have the aging. It's a chance to totally rejuvenate, to reset all of her systems. And in fact, I don't know whether this guy was joking, but yesterday I'm studying, we're trying to get our Ayurveda Mother and Infant program a little bit more formally structured as a business, and I was having a conference call to help with this, and so we were chatting, and I love Ami. I'm very enthusiastic. I'm very excited about it, and he said, "Oh, you have such enthusiasm, such attitude," and then I said, "Well, how old do you think I am?" And he looked at me, on Zoom. So he looked at me and go, 47. And now it might have just been being very kind, you know. Oh, well, no, actually 67. So I'm still in the sacred window, and it is a chance to completely rejuvenate. And I think that it really, really helps. Really, really helps. So that was how I began. And I feel extremely fortunate. My children were both healthy, happy, wonderful. My son, like me and like my husband, he has a scientific bent. So he ended up studying physics and got his bachelor's and PhD in physics from Oxford University in England. And my daughter really loves helping people and really loves the earth and everything. So she got her degree from Sussex University in Brighton. This is all UK, in international development and Spanish, because she said, "Oh, Mom, what's the point of learning something if you go to the country and you can't speak the language?" So then she got her job in Peru, and she's been working there, and has just recently come back to England and opened her own gardening business, and also sustainable development, sustainable, food forest and all of that, helping people design their gardens like that. So both of them, having had the Abhyanga every single day for the first 10 years of their life, really, and having a family with lots of joy and fun, and I think that the program speaks for itself in the way my children have turned out, actually.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I really love how you acknowledge for yourself that you're still in your sacred window. When we think of it as, 42 days, 45 days, for 45 years, there's really something powerful in that helps to affirm the work that we've done, and also the care that we can give ourselves through this whole extended window also. I've actually never really thought about it like that specifically, but I love that, because I certainly acknowledge in myself, shifts and evolution and growing and healing continued. My youngest is 3 and my oldest is almost 13, but very, very much so, we're still in it.
Yeah.
So the Maharishi Ayurveda Mother and Baby program, that program is really one of the only resources for actual data and study that is out there. And I love that you and Isha Oaks met there. Were you at all involved in that period of time where they were collecting the data for that study? It's reflected in or presented in the book For a Blissful Baby.
Yes, and they also did an interview. I was interviewed in the video for a Blissful Baby.
In the video, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm in there with my son. I don't think my daughter had been born yet. Yeah, and Clara Berno was one of the people there who was interviewing, and yeah, she was actually one of my masseuses.
Beautiful. Yeah. For you, going through that program on a personal level, what part of the caregiving do you feel like resonated with you the most, or that was most potent for you? I know it's all plays a part in how we heal, but looking back on it, what was one aspect of care that was particularly potent for you?
Well, my son, my firstborn, was born sunny side up, so I had back labor. His spine was against my spine, and unlike the contractions and then the pause, and the contractions and the pause with back labor like that when they're sunny side up, it was constant for 24 hours, and it was 6 hours. I was 6 hours of pushing, and the uterus pooped out. It got tired. But fortunately, I had a most wonderful midwife and a most wonderful doctor, Dr. Hughes, who had, I think he himself actually is part Hopi Indian. I may be mistaken, but he worked in the reservation with Hopi Indians and helped many mothers give birth there. And so he wasn't afraid of letting me continue to labor. They could monitor me from time to time, and he said, okay, fine, okay, your uterus is tired, but you want to continue, that's fine. So with both of them, it was a completely natural childbirth. But at one point he said, because I was on all fours and rocking and trying to get him to turn. I mean, his head was engaged, but if you put your hands on your head and you see here, which is the widest part, this is the widest part at the back. And if you look at the hips, where's the widest part is to the front. So, but he was the other way around. So that the widest part of his head was actually in the smallest part of my hips. And so those 6 hours of bang, 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 he was never going to come out, but they didn't really realize that. And finally, Dr. Hughes said, Sue, this may hurt, but, and he managed to get his whole hand in, and even further maybe, and then managed to disengage the head, turn my son's body around, And then the instant the head was in the right position, boom, contraction, boom, he was out. So having had that experience, which was, they say that mothers talk about birth and men talk about their war experiences. That's, what a primal impression these things are. Having had that kind of birth with him, the thing about the program that really, it made me cry. Even thinking about it now makes me cry. Because it was such a difficult labor and so painful for so long. To have that touch, which is so gentle and so loving, I'm crying already. I just burst into tears, and it felt so nourishing and so deeply healing. And to have that time every day, which is just yours, because my mother or somebody else would take the baby, so I could have the massage and not worry. And of course, you time it so that you're nursing him just before, so you have as long time as possible to yourself. That was amazing. And the oil is so penetrating and so nourishing, really. So the touch and the oil, and then having the rest, and then the bath. That was the most amazing part of the day. I mean, in addition to nursing my son, which was also very, very beautiful.
Well, I've experienced that overwhelm of emotion myself on the massage table after birth as well, and certainly had many clients cry on the massage table too, because it is so loving, and it gives an opportunity for integration. And the whole process of transforming into a parent is so fast and requires integration on so many levels, that when a person is able to receive that type of oil massage, that gentle postpartum abhyanga, it really does allow for like a shift in consciousness about it and a release. It's so beautiful.
It does. And also for him. So my son, so when he would get the oil massage, I could see him just, because it's hard, 24 hours of labor. It's hard work for the baby too. And then can you imagine just bam, bam, bam for 6 hours and you can't get through. It's like, and then just the right position and straight out. So I could see him relaxing into the massage and then into the bath. He loved it. And for both of us, I think it was just a chance to release the stress and of that.
So beautiful. So you have been in Europe, but based, both in the UK and in Italy for quite some time now. And
30 years.
Yes. So describe, your experiences in the field of Ayurveda and postpartum care or mother care, in the US and versus now, in Europe. Describe a little bit about your experiences.
It's quite different, and also it's quite different in every country. So as I was telling you earlier, in 2000, in 2000, we had a meeting because we felt, okay, we really need to revive and reestablish this tradition with postpartum care. Particularly, that's the angle we were focusing on. So there were 10 mothers from all over the world. We had mothers from Turkey, from Mexico, from India, from the UK, from Canada, from the US, from Holland, from Japan. And we all sat together and we started to, and Isha was there too. Isha Oaks was there. And we all sat there and started describing the traditional elements from our culture and sort of integrating that with the Maharishi mother and baby knowledge that some of us had known. And so together we said, okay, let's start to revive this. And it was very slow in coming, frankly. We also thought that we should offer the mother marma. So we should offer marma, particularly to mums who have had cesarean, so that they could have something, because you can't really massage them when the cut is still open. You can do other parts of the body, but yeah. So we thought they should really have something. So we learned that, and Isha taught us a lot more about aromatherapy, and well, some of us were there who knew a lot more about the rasayanas. So all together with everything, we sort of put together a package that would include all of these different elements, and trained each other in the ones that we knew that the others didn't know. And I can't remember how long we were there, but it was, I think, maybe 2 weeks. I can't remember. But it was lovely, really, really lovely. And then everybody dispersed, and then we started to teach this at the Canadian ashram of the Art of Living at Sri Sri Ayurveda. And when did you come? 2012. When did you come? When did I meet you?
It was 2015.
Oh, 2015. Okay, yeah. So, and when did Isha pass away? Was it 2012?
No, it was 2015. It was just a few months, because I remember she was supposed to teach up there for
That's
that.
right. Yes.
She passed away,
Yeah.
and so graciously invited anyone who wanted to come, for that circle to come and
yeah, that's right. So that was it. All right, that was 2015. Yeah. So when I came to England, I connected with Frederick Leboyer, and Anne and I went to visit him. So Ann Revington and I went to visit him, and we spent a lovely afternoon with him. And also Michelle O'Donnell had started with a few other doulas, a doula training program, and we started the Doula UK organization. So I was early in on that, and I think about 1999, 1998. Anyway, my records say that I became a member in 2000, but I also trained on Michelle O'Donnell's program for that. So these two sort of grandfathers of natural childbirth, I was very, very fortunate to meet and to spend some time with, and to train under Michelle O'Donnell. And Doula UK was very good at I'm so bad at names. Peggy Simkin, is that right? Yes. So she came over. We had lots of luminaries coming over and giving us seminars for continued professional development. And in the UK, yeah, on a spectrum from a very medicalized birth to a more natural birth, my experience in Europe is that Holland, for example, almost all births in Holland are at home with a doula. Yeah, and very few cesareans. And now the whole trend of women being afraid of the pain of labor and opting for elective cesarean. Well, I have a personal story to tell. I was a cesarean baby, and my brother was a cesarean baby, because my mother was told that she because her uterus had been cut once, and they were afraid, of VBACs. They were afraid of vaginal birth after cesarean, and they didn't want her to go into labor and risk. They said, oh, you could risk losing your life and the baby's life. And my father was a doctor, and he said no. So so I was cesarean, and again, my brother was cesarean. But what happened, because you have to cut through those 7 layers, what happened to my mother is that, so she had us in her 20s, and then in her late 50s, as you may or may not know, when you cut tissue, internal tissue, it has a sticky edge. And then the sticky edges stick to other organs internally. So, 30 years after, what had happened was suddenly she had intestinal obstruction and was rushed to the hospital. And sure enough, because of all these layers of cutting for us 2 kids, the intestines had gotten obstructed because other tissue had stuck to them and then wouldn't let them lie flat and wouldn't let the food pass through properly. And this doesn't show up for 30 years until after the cesarean. But now there are more and more studies which indicate that, yes, of course, why didn't we think about that? So some people think, oh, it's a less risky birth to have cesarean. Well, that's not looking at the long-term picture, actually. And my mother has had so many of these intestinal obstructions now, and had to have them cut, that the doctors have said, if you get another one of these, I'm afraid we can't do anything. There's so much scar tissue, and there's so much, we're not going to open you up again, ever. So I think we really need to pay attention to that, and bear that in mind when people are opting for an elective cesarean. Of course, if it's an emergency, that's a different story. This is my opinion. Of course, when I'm doing my practice, I can tell these stories. When people are making a birth plan, but I think some of this knowledge needs to be shared more. People are not aware of that aspect of cesarean 30 years down the line. So this relates to the spectrum of medicalized births and natural births, with Holland on one side and actually America on the other side of the extreme. Now, Italy is another kind of a story. I laugh because they're so wonderful, particularly in the south of Italy. There's a wives' tale that the more the mom screams in labor, the more she's a real woman. So, whether it's a home birth or a hospital birth, everybody knows she's in labor. Oh, and the husbands are so proud. It's a different culture, whereas in England, but then when you go into labor land, it's no stiff upper lip anymore. You go into the primordial brain stem, let rip.
Yes, and it's helpful. It's helpful.
Yes, it's helpful. I remember with my son, 24 hours labor, one of the things that I learned very viscerally in that was my midwife was wonderful, and she saw me 6 hours of pushing, and she saw that I was holding back from the pain. And in some way, I mean, that's an exaggeration, but she could see, because it was painful. And then she said, Sue, you're holding back from the pain. I want you to just completely let go into it. Don't resist it. Just completely go straight into it. And that was a world of difference. It felt, instead of, sort of holding back, just, okay, going straight into it was, welcoming it, just embracing it, whatever, just, okay, here I am, 100%. Unfortunately, that wasn't the problem. The problem was his position of the head. And as soon as that was sorted, boom, out he went. But it was a very interesting psychological experience. So as far as the one thing about all the countries that I've worked in is people don't think about postpartum. They think about conception, they think about pregnancy, they think about birth, but they think, oh, the rest will take care of itself. Women, as my boyfriend says, oh, it's a big thing. Women have been having babies since humans began. But then when I started telling him about this oxytocin thing and about so many different aspects, his eyes went, oh, if only I had known that when I had, when my wife and I had our baby. They've been separated for some 20 years now, but he just is a complete eye-opener. He said, so you've got to get this knowledge out. You've got to spread this paradigm. And that's why it's so wonderful now. There's so many different people all around the world, like you, like Julia Jones, like Amaya, so many people all around the world. The paradigm shift is taking place.
It is, and it's so heartening. I see it, in the information that's out there for us on birth now in the West. As you were describing the difference of birth, I feel like the understanding about birth and is really re-evolving, if you will, to empowering the birther. And now we're starting to see this really beautiful surge of enthusiasm and research and study about postpartum care and how transformative it is. And you are a testament to the care that you were given. You have a radiance in you that is so beautiful, and an energy level that is very inspiring. And I feel so honored to be on this path with you in the way that we are. And I know that all of the families that you've been able to work with are so lucky to have had your care.
Yeah, I'm just very fortunate. I feel very, very fortunate, to be in the right place at the right time with the right people, and giving what is truly needed. The soul feels that when you give it, it's like, they're truly grateful, to receive it. I think we're very, very, very lucky to be in this field.
I agree. Sue, thank you so much for sitting with me today. And your stories are so inspiring and so great to hear. I love really, really hearing people's stories because you're right. This is an experience that forever shapes who we are when we go through it on a personal level, and when we have the honor of being so intimate with families who are going through it themselves. It touches a part of the human experience that is unlike any other that I've come across.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for your work, Sue. Thank you for speaking.
Thank you so much, Christine. And you're such a good listener, and you ask such questions, juicy questions that bring out all these memories and stories. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I look forward to many more conversations.